You spoke to Everett, the new CEO of Kickstarter.
I said, so we hope that finally it's going to be a Facebook pixel on Kickstarter. And the magic is that he actually did. He put the pixel on Kickstarter like 3 days before the end of my campaign. And I was like, God, like, anyway, couldn't have come a month sooner.
Hi there. My name is George, and welcome to the Crowdfunding Academy podcast. I used to work at Kickstarter, and currently I help creators run successful campaigns with my company's YG and Fantastic Funding. On this podcast, you'll hear from creators and my team how they consistently launch record breaking campaigns so you can do the same. Our guest today is the creator of Midronome. Midronome is a MIDI master clock with built-in metronome to keep electronic musicians in sync. Midronome raised over $160,000 from over 1,000 backers, and the man behind it all, Simon, is here to share how he did it. Simon, welcome. Super great to
Thank
have you
you.
on the show. For everyone watching and listening, Simon is eating a piece of cake at the moment, which we just learned is a French thing, right? Yeah.
Well, thank you for
I'm
having me here. Pleasure.
absolutely, man. It's such an honor to have you. Simon, as a bit of backstory, so we worked a little bit on Simon's campaign. He has proven to be one of the most brilliant creators I think that we've ever had. Like, we almost kind of felt bad charging him for our services because he just had so many great things that we actually learned from him, just the way he set up his campaign, which is why it's great to have you here today because I think everyone, including us, can actually learn a lot from you because you executed so well. Before we get into that, would you mind giving people a little bit of backstory on who you are, where you are, what your background is?
Yeah, I mean, thank you for saying this. I didn't know actually that I was your best client, but so yeah, my name is Simon. I am French, live in Denmark, and I'm a musician. And my band has had some timing issues when we were playing music. And somehow I came up with this idea of this device that's actually right here. I always have one on the table. And yeah, I mean, we had issues and I thought, hey, I can solve this. I can do a bit of electronics and stuff. And somehow that was like 3 years ago and the project grew and grew. And I've always had in the back of my head to use crowdfunding because I didn't want to go through investors and all that stuff. And I hope the idea was literally, okay, I'm going to create a device that's, that's going to solve a problem. People are going to like this. And then it's going to be cheap. That was also my idea. And
Um,
somehow that works actually pretty well.
So you don't have a background in electronics or in hardware.
Non-hardware. I have background in software actually. So I had all the software side that I could do and everything that was hardware, I just learned on the fly.
How long did it take you to
Basically,
learn that?
a lot of time. I think I'm a very nerdy person. And I think it's also what I did with the crowdfunding and all the marketing. I just go deep into things and I
Yeah,
just learn.
that's a big undertaking to like actually to not just learn crowdfunding, but actually learn electronics and then learn crowdfunding. That's you don't back down for a challenge. That's for sure. So you said you didn't want to raise investment. You wanted to do. You had Kickstarter in the back of your mind. Sort of, what were the deciding factors ultimately to then choose to do a crowdfunding campaign and then specifically to do Kickstarter, for example?
But I mean, like I say, I've always had crowdfunding in the back of my head. So I always thought, let's raise some money from people. And then the whole idea of why Kickstarter versus Indiegogo, actually, I wanted to launch on Indiegogo first, and I've actually spoken to the Indiegogo guys, ended up going on Kickstarter. And I hope it's okay I'm saying this, but like my experience with Kickstarter was really disastrous. Like I did not like that at all.
Wow.
Um,
Yeah. Please elaborate on that. What was it that you didn't like?
So like, I mean, first I was pretty shocked both on Indiegogo and on Kickstarter, like how bad the websites are. Like the editors are so bad. It's like it's 2023 and they can't make a decent website editor. Like everybody makes their web pages on of pictures. And as a webmaster, like someone that makes websites, it's so wrong. And it's so weird that you have to make the entire page out of pictures. You can't just write text.
Yeah.
And anyway, that was one of the first factor, but that was on both, literally on both sides. To just bad at this.
Yeah.
But then the Kickstarter experience was also like, for example, now. So one of the things is now I'm fighting to get all my backers shipping addresses.
Mhm.
And this, I don't understand why Kickstarter has this system where people can join basically Kickstarter with their Apple ID and then they don't even have an email. So I don't even have their email. I don't have their shipping address. And the only way I can contact them is one by one on sending a Kickstarter message, and there's no easy
What
way to do
exactly?
this. It's not like I can select them all and say, "Oh, send message." No, I have to select one. Like I spent hours doing this, and today I still have 30 people that have actually bought a device, and
Yeah.
I don't have their shipping address.
This is so common. It's so crazy, right? We actually have this on all the campaigns that we do. We always have people that just purchase the thing and then just disappear, which is it's crazy on all accounts, right? It's crazy from the back for we sort of
It
pay for a
is.
thing and then disappear, and it's crazy that Kickstarter has that system. Full disclosure, before we go on our rampage of absolutely killing Kickstarter. I used to work at Kickstarter, so all my former colleagues in the product team who are listening, I apologize. I still love you, but I agree with Simon that the product just hasn't had an update in so long, which
Mhm.
is yeah, it's just weird. But you spoke to Everett, the new CEO of Kickstarter, right?
So, yeah, that was actually quite cool. Like, he joined it was literally a few days before the end of my campaign, or maybe in the middle of my campaign, I think he became CEO. And, I mean, I spoke with him. I think I wrote comments on Instagram and he answered, which was kinda nice. And the comment was the Facebook pixel, basically. I said, "So, we hope that finally there's gonna be a Facebook pixel on Kickstarter." And the magic is that he actually did. He put the pixel on Kickstarter, like, 3 days before the end of my campaign. And I was like, "God." Like, anyway, couldn't have come a month sooner. But yeah,
But
so that was also one of the things that was terrible about Kickstarter that is now resolved. There's you can now use the Pixel,
yeah,
the Facebook
yeah,
Pixel.
I never ever told you the backstory, but basically, one of my good friends was one of the very, very early employees at Kickstarter, and so I asked her once, like, why always this like hesitancy with the Facebook Pixel? And then she was like, oh, like actually we were gonna do it, but then like, yeah, we sent it over to Perry, the co-founder, and he was like, sure, but then someone never followed up on his email, and then just like it just became an issue that for 10 years just lay dormant, even though everyone was just kind of on board with the
It's just
idea,
great.
and then it just
It's
never
crazy.
happened. Yeah.
Mhm.
So you didn't love your experience with Kickstarter because the platform was and continues to underdeliver on the needs that you have as a creator,
Mhm.
but you
It
still did
matches,
leave?
but just to finish on this, it kind of matches
Yeah,
with stuff that you told me yourself that I think that Kickstarter is a bit of a dinosaur. It's like it was pretty much the biggest crowdfunding website for years, and they never really
yeah,
thought about improving it. And they just thought, hey, crowdfunding is cool. And it's true, like the whole idea is cool. And I think it kind of comes from, but like you say, it's just the platform really needs updating, it needs to be modernized. And I actually think the new CEO is working on this. So hopefully it will get better.
yeah. I just heard a podcast with him. They're doing the marketing services now, and they are building a pledge manager. So I think, 10 years in, they got the memo. But you're not the only creator who says this. Like you're not overly negative or anything. I think it's what a lot of people struggle with. So Kickstarter aside, that wasn't a great experience. What I think, at least for us, was a great experience to see you do is your whole pre-launch. So talk us through what you did to build hype and momentum before your campaign launched because you did an excellent job there.
The whole idea with the pre-launch is the fact that obviously you get the emails, everybody has this, but then they have this $1 reservation,
Yeah.
which I think is becoming more and more common. Where basically, people pay $1 to say, "Hey, I really want to join the Kickstarter," and just the fact that they have to pay $1 means they have to take out the credit card and stuff like this. It really is an amazing tool for validating, and I think, like in my case, I think it was a mix of luck and like good product at the right time, the right price in the right markets also. And like in my case, there's basically one competitor for this. It's a German company and they've owned the market. Like they were the only one doing clocks basically for years. And everybody complained about their prices. And they make actually really great devices. It's all manufactured in Germany, but it's just very expensive. And everybody says literally it's just so expensive, but there's nothing else on the market. So
Yeah.
then I came and say, hey, I can make something cheaper. And then people jumped on it basically.
And so just to summarize, so what you did was you built a landing page where people leave their email, then they get an email from you, and then you ask them to pay a $1 reservation. And what was the perk that you were giving for people to pay that $1?
So the point is like normally when you launch, you have the super early birds, right? The early birds, and then you have
Mhm.
like the normal Kickstarter special price. Where basically the concept is you add one more level that's cheaper than the super early birds, and that's where you give people that give the $1 reservation. Say, oh no, you have access to. So I call it the VIP price.
Yeah.
It's like now you're VIP because you've put down $1, and then you have access to the special price.
How did you manage all of that? So let's dive into the nitty gritty. You built your own landing page. What software did you use?
I did everything in my mail software called MailerLite. It's actually a Lithuanian company. This is,
Oh,
fellow Europeans and stuff. So it's kind of funny. And honestly, I love their software. It's amazing. So it's like a big competitor to Mailchimp. Basically, a lot of people use Mailchimp or Klaviyo. I think MailerLite is maybe a bit less known, but I love like everything about the mailing lists side of things is amazing. And then basically they have like another part of the software that comes for free, which is the whole landing page. You can build a whole website on it. And honestly, I think I'm going to switch my website to the MailerLite system actually, because it's
fine.
so amazing. Obviously, it's very basic. Like you can't make anything complex. But if you need a very simple website, you can make that very quickly. It's pretty easy and it's super easy to edit on the thing.
Okay, so you use MailerLite for your both your landing page and the email marketing. And then what did you use to process like the $1 payment? Was that also MailerLite or was that another system?
So I use Stripe to process the actual payments. But yeah, obviously that's where I guess I have the advantage that I can code. So I did have to tweak a few things, integrate Stripe in the MailerLite system and stuff. So this is maybe not something everybody can do. But again, they're working on this, and they literally have a Stripe integration in MailerLite. It just wasn't working the way I wanted it to work, so I tweaked it and did some coding here and there.
Yeah. I think for everyone listening who's not a coder like Simon, there are a bunch of ways you can do this. We sometimes use like WooCommerce, for example, because it integrates with WordPress and then, you make your landing page there instead of MailerLite and then
Mhm.
it has it too. But you had a super elegant solution. So how many emails did you collect? How many people paid the $1 reservation? And then how were the conversions after that?
So this is where I'm gonna bitch about Kickstarter some more because basically, if you look at the numbers, I've sold like most of my backers are actually the VIPs. They're the people that put
Yeah.
down the $1 reservation. I didn't get much backers from Kickstarter. I didn't get much backers during the campaign. Like this was like the difficult part. I still feel like the biggest thing was literally the pre-launch. This way, it's like
Yeah.
it almost felt like I reached the maximum of people I could reach, and then that was it. Like they were there, they're ready to buy, which is where I feel like maybe I just didn't need any crowdfunding. I just need to get their money.
Think it is a really good point before we dive into your numbers because we see this more and more, right? Where the pre-launch is such a big part of the overall campaign, or it's like 70 or 80% of pledges, and those probably would have converted anywhere because you've already sent them a payment on a page that you literally built yourself with Stripe and MailerLite. So it is, I think, a very valid point that
Mhm.
what is the added benefit of Kickstarter at that point?
That's a funny thing though, because I've spoken to a few other creators. And I think what I hear more and more is I think the crowdfunding world has changed. That before there
Yeah,
was always this thing, okay, you're gonna do pre-launch and you're gonna gather maybe 30% of your backers, and then the rest is gonna come during the campaign. What I feel now actually, it's a lot more. It's literally you almost feel like it's all about the pre-launch. Once you've
mhm.
launched, it's like, oh, people know the system and they know how it works and everything, and they know the best prices at the beginning of the campaign. And at least for me, it was very like the curve was extremely flat.
I also feel like maybe it has to do a little bit with Facebook advertising these days. Obviously, Kickstarter didn't have the Pixel; it has it now, but the Pixel
Mhm,
overall is not as good as it was before iOS 14.
mhm,
And obviously, when you run like a lead generation ad campaign, Facebook has a lot more data points to optimize on, right? Because you're going to have lots of people sign up for email, which is a conversion sort of data point versus purchases on Kickstarter, which are just always going to be less. You're
mhm,
just gonna have more email signups
mhm,
than you're going to have purchases. And therefore,
mhm,
you just train the Facebook algorithm
mhm.
better and for a longer period of time. So that's my personal theory as to why that, yeah, might be more effective.
Yeah, that's a very interesting point about why the pre-launch works so well, because you
Hmm.
get you get all that Facebook data at all the points, basically. You get it when they go on the page, then you get more
Exactly.
when they put the email, and then if they even go further, put like the one that
Yeah,
reservation, then it's like,
exactly.
well, okay, this is a good lead, and yeah.
Exactly. That's at least my hypothesis. And also you probably have
Mhm.
more time. So how long did you run your pre-launch for?
Yeah, I would say about 2, maybe 3 months. It's like I remember I didn't have the set dates, but it's like I could
Yeah.
feel it. I remember I could feel that, okay, now it's time to launch. I had like more and more people that started writing to me like, "Oh, this is a scam. He's just running ads and he's never gonna launch." And when I get more and more of these, I felt like, okay, now it's probably time to launch. Like people are starting to get
Okay.
pissed seeing the same ad.
What a
So
great tip. The moment people start calling you a scam is when you need to launch. That's how you know.
Yeah.
Let's dive into your numbers.
So numbers. So you didn't mention this, but I launched a first campaign also on Kickstarter actually before I did
Yeah.
all the pre-launch and everything. And that campaign didn't work, as in I didn't reach the goal. But funny enough, for that campaign, I had about 400 leads,
Mhm.
and at the end, I ended up about 100 backers, like,
Nice.
on the first days. So that's like the 25% conversion rate basically from my
Yeah.
leads to the backers, which I think is pretty high. And I think again is very specific to my product. It's because it's a very niche product. So like I don't think random people would just sign up if they were not actually interested. So I think that's why like normally people say like this much lower than 25%. But funny enough, that 25%, even though numbers grew basically on the next campaign, the one that was successful, I
Mhm.
still kind of saw the same because when I launched, I had about 4,000 leads, so 4,000 emails, and I had 1,000 VIPs. That's 25%.
Wow.
And
And the VIPs all
yeah,
converted?
and that's the thing. So it's again, yet another thing that annoys me about Kickstarter. There's no way to control any of this. I have no idea. Like all you can do is just guess and compare things. And I've tried, but there's no precise number. There's no way to exactly know who converted.
Yeah.
My guess is almost all converted. I think it's
Yeah.
probably like above 90%, maybe even above 95%. And at the
Yeah.
end, I've sold 1,200 devices,
Yeah.
and some people bought two devices. So I think I have maybe 1,000, I don't know, 50 backers, which makes me feel again. So I got 50 backers from Kickstarter.
Yeah.
Pro.
There are cases, right, where so for example, with Kickstarter, if they put you in one of their newsletters, that's a huge boost. But that's kind of like winning the lottery, I feel like. So we work with Simon, right? He was our client for ads. One of the things we do is if we think that a campaign is great, we definitely help reaching out to Kickstarter, whether it's Heather on the design technology team, who's my former colleague, or it's someone on the games team. We help folks reach out. And basically all we do is like, here's who that person is and how you can reach them. And we make sure that the campaign page is in a good shape to present to Kickstarter. Before you do that, Simon's page is already in great shape. But that's basically what we do on projects where we feel that they have a good chance to be project we love material. But your overall Kickstarter traffic wasn't really helped by that. Is that what I'm getting from this?
Yeah, my point is, I don't know if I was in any newsletter. I don't think so because I think she would have told
I don't
me.
think so. Yeah.
But yeah, I don't feel like I got any traffic. The Kickstarter has this thing where in the dashboard they can tell you, "Oh, we gave you that many percent." That percentage is always way higher than it actually is.
So you get about a 25% conversion rate from the emails that you've collected.
Mhm.
And you did, and just to be clear, you collected emails through a landing page, not through on Facebook lead collection, right?
Yeah, all on the landing page.
On the landing page, exactly. So those are then
Mhm.
like a higher
But
quality.
it was speaking of actually ads. Obviously, I run ads to get the leads,
Yeah.
and the most like the best ads I could ever run the Facebook. Yeah, like I've tried all sorts actually, and it's always Facebook that wins. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I also think, again, maybe my target is a bit older, so maybe people that have, like, younger targets, other platforms would work better. Yeah.
Most projects that where we run TikTok ads or Reddit ads or even Google ads, they just don't perform as well as Facebook. And my theory is that Facebook has been around for so long that it has so much granular data on people
Mm.
that it just knows how to target them better because maybe they like, I don't know, how old are you, Simon?
I'm 33.
Okay, I'm 32, so we're the same age. If you're anything like me, you kind of got Facebook 15 years ago or whatever, and then you kind of like grew up with that. You stopped using it, but then you still use Instagram probably, and you still
Mm,
use WhatsApp.
mm,
So they still have this
mhm,
15-year
mhm,
profile of you, whereas TikTok just has like a 2-year profile on you if you
mm,
use it to begin with. So
that's
that's
interesting, yeah. It's
what it is.
crazy actually when you say this, and I think about my friends, and it's true, you can go back to their Facebook profile, like, literally
Yeah.
15 years ago.
So you ran your own ads for the pre-launch, right? Tell us what you learned. Like what worked well, what didn't work well. Were there things that surprised you?
I mean, I did something that was pretty uncommon. I think is I went really deep into answering messages. Like my goal with all this was really to connect with people. And it's so surprising. People always think like as soon as you're successful, you're gonna have so many people writing to you. And actually I never had that experience. except maybe literally on launch day or like on very, very specific days. But okay, it was a bit overwhelming, but it dies very quickly. I think nowadays people are just busy and like to get actually people to comment on an ad, for example, first you need to put a lot of money. Like it needs to run a lot. It needs to be a successful ad. Like it's not that easy. So I feel like every single comment, every people that was making the effort of commenting, and some of them were actually pretty awful. I would still enter and I would still like start a conversation, like because some of them were actually really bad. Like they were just saying, "Oh, this is clearly an ad. This is clearly fake." And then when I started speaking with them, we actually had a full conversation, and then all of a sudden they had an actual interest because I had their attention.
I very much believe that haters are the best future backers 100% because clearly they get triggered by your product or by the thing that you do and they engage. And at the end of the day, it's just about engagement. And then it's up to you to kind of steer that back in a good direction. And sometimes I see creators do the opposite where they get a lot of hate and they're just like, I don't know what to do. Like,
Mhm,
panic, just hiding. And then that just grows and grows and grows. But what you did is so smart. You just engaged with them and then you kind of turned their energy
mhm,
around. But at least these are people
mhm.
with energy and with engagement. So yeah.
Maybe some of them. I also had people that are really nice. Like I also had people that are defending me at some point, which was really cool.
Sure.
Like when people were
Yep.
commenting horrible things, I had other people commenting underneath saying, "Oh, that's not true."
And so how did you go about running the actual ads itself? I guess that's self-taught as well, right? You just found out how to do that?
I mean, the technical side of thing is not that complicated. You need to set up the pixel correctly and all this stuff, like all the events and everything. And then the marketing side of thing, that's always been my problem, basically, like writing the actual text, choosing the picture and all that stuff. Something I've learned, and you guys are the marketing experts, so feel free to tell me if I'm wrong, but something I've learned is actually there's no perfect text, there's no perfect image. It's all about testing. It's like
Yeah,
there's no way to know. You just write the thing and then you see what works.
for sure. 100%. Even sometimes weird creatives outperform beautiful creatives. Yeah, you have no idea. If you had to sort of pick one thing that made your campaign a success, what would it be?
It'll be the pre-launch. That
Yeah.
reservation, wonder reservation thing. Actually, there's another factor. And it's gonna sound very proud, but I also think I made a good product. And
Yes.
because I've seen people doing the same thing, doing all the marketing right and everything. And it is at the
Yes.
end still you're still selling a product. So it's like crowdfunding is one thing, it's a tool. But if you don't have a good product, if you don't come at the right time, the right pricing, well, it's not gonna sell. It's like at the end, there's no magic.
Yeah. I'm happy you say that because we as an agency sometimes have products that we work on where we're not sure, about the product and people can get really wrapped up in how good they think the product is. And then, obviously it has to be like everyone's fault except the product. And I do believe very much that the right product, I think your journey is a great example of that. If you just kind of push it a little bit, like you're not the most seasoned marketing expert, but you're a very smart guy, but you didn't spend boatloads of money on like super expensive videos and like super expensive graphics and hiring a copywriter. You just presented the product, you just presented a great product well, and then you kind of feel market pull. Um, so yeah, it does start
Mhm.
with a great product, and but you also really understood your audience very well because you shared some research I think that you did in the beginning, right? Like how does it compare to other products? The German one that you talked about, who might it appeal to?
Like 100% looking into your competitors, knowing who your competitors are. But again, like I always feel, especially creators, I feel like most crowdfunding creators are people that created a product for themselves. Like I did
Yeah,
this, like I needed a device like this, so I made one. And I feel a lot of people did the same thing. Like all the crowdfunding campaigns I've seen, it's always like, "Oh, I had this problem, so I made this device, this thing to solve it, and now I'm trying to sell it." So already there, because you're your own clients, well, you should know the reason why you made it in the first place, probably because there was nothing in the market like it. So already there, you've kind of done your research. Like for me, it was my friend who needed a device like this. It wasn't even me. And he literally looked for years everywhere. He was like, "There's not a single device that can do this." And he was so annoyed by it. So it was like, so that way he did the research for me. But 100% looking into other companies, I think that's definitely super important. So you know what's there and then know their weaknesses, know their strength, their
yeah.
prices.
So I wanted to end this by asking, for everyone listening, thinking of starting a crowdfunding campaign or a Kickstarter, what advice would you give? Is your advice going to be don't do it because you didn't like Kickstarter, or do you still feel happy that you went on this journey?
No, I love the crowdfunding experience. I think it's amazing. And I think we live in this amazing world where more and more people do crowdfunding. Like even big companies start to do crowdfunding. And sometimes it's difficult for the backers, but I think it's like the whole mindset is changing. The buying mindset is changing. People don't buy finished products anymore. They buy unfinished products cheaper. And a lot of them are going to
Yeah.
complain about it and say, oh, don't beta test on your customers. But then they want the device like half the price that it should be. So it's also a balance. But I think it literally is like this mindset. You have more and more people now. Point is, I see companies that every time they launch a new product, they always give like a half price version
Yeah.
that's pre-sales basically, because that's what crowdfunding is. It's just pre-sale. So like my experience with Kickstarter specifically was not very good. Hopefully it's going to improve, but crowdfunding I definitely recommend. And actually, I also want to say, I mean, I'm here, with you guys, and for anyone listening, this is not George asking me to say this, but I just want to say I had actually a really good experience with you guys. That
Oh, thanks.
overall, I think I clicked with you, George, specifically, like when we had the first meeting and stuff, just like very nice personality, and like overall experience with you guys was really cool. Like for me, matters a lot. Actually, it's not necessarily like the results, but it's also like the way people work because I feel like the results you can never know. There's so many factors and stuff. And like in your case, you guys run ads for me and you did a really good job. And what was more important for me, more than the results, is like the way you handled if there was an issue, the way we talked, and like the whole process was really smooth. It was a
Thank
really pleasure working with you guys. That's really
thank you.
nice. And yeah, my overall advice and for people wanting to do this is do it. Like start a pre-launch, and then on the pre-launch you can see what's happening. If people like the product, then do it. Then launch on Kickstarter or Indiegogo or another platform. If I was to launch now, I would definitely launch on another platform, like maybe on my own
Oh,
or something.
thank you so much for the kind words. That really means a lot. It's completely mutual. Like we loved working with you as well. And I think there's product market fit, but there's also like creator agency fit. I think that matters. And yeah, you were just such a dream to work with. So I'm also not surprised that you did so well. So obviously now that people have heard how great you are and how great the product is, where can they go to follow or get their own Midronome?
They can find it on the website, which is www.thenameoftheproduct.com. So that's the name of the product.
Midronome.com.
And yes, yes,
Great. So Midronome.com, if you are a musician that's making electronic music, you want to stay in sync, you want to stay on beat, this is the product for you. And it's much cheaper than the German alternative and just as good or better, probably. Simon, thank you so much. It's been absolutely wonderful catching up with you. And thank you for taking the time. I know you're super busy. Simon is currently fulfilling the Kickstarter orders. So if you were a backer, you will get yours pretty soon, right?
yeah, about a month too.
All right. Amazing. Thank you so much, Simon. I really, really appreciate it.
Lovely. Thank you.